Alrighty, hello and happy Thursday. Welcome to another Lunch and Learn with Purse Strings. For those of you who are new here, my name is Maggie Nielsen and I am a partner at Purse Strings. We are all about providing tips, tricks, pieces of advice on how to be financially fearless. And then when you're looking for a business coach, need that will and estate plan, you're looking to plan your retirement or pay off some debt, whatever it is, we have top tier financial professionals willing, ready, and able to serve you. We call those our Purse Strings approved professionals, and Paige is one of them. And we are so excited to have her on today to talk about all things business coaching. Since this month, we're talking all about women in business. So before we dive into our conversation, Paige, could you give us a little intro of who you are and what you do?
Yeah, my name is Paige Cornetet. You'll never forget it. And I own a company called Millennial Guru, where we focus on bridging the gap of the generations and really honing in on what people's talents are and the misunderstandings in the workplace and how to really effectively communicate with each other and really maximize your talents and turning them into strengths.
I love that. I'm very excited for this conversation. I'm excited you're on today. And so anyone tuning in live, if you have any questions along the way, feel free to throw them in the chat. And if you're watching the replay, you can still put them in the comments and we'll work on getting back to those. So just kind of diving in, you are a business coach, right? That's how you define yourself.
Yes.
So what does a business coach do?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I feel like it can range from a lot
Right.
of different things that they do. So what I do personally is I work with companies and teams. So not really a one-on-one base. It's more of a group setting or a bigger perspective because I really like, not that one-on-one coaching isn't great, but that's just not what I do personally. I love the team and the group coming together that work together. Sometimes I've worked with companies that they don't even work like in the same state. They work all virtually. And so it's really cool to be like, well, you guys know each other really well. You do professional work together, but the misunderstandings that come up or like the frustrations are always around how someone does something. And that is normally about their strengths. And so it's like, okay, well, oh, but you are really good at that. And so I do a lot of different workshops, whether they're, a half a day, a full day, a week, whatever it is. And, basically help people understand each other. And we do a lot of fun team building, a lot of activities. I like to make people do art. They really don't like that, but a lot of great stuff comes out when you are performing or, whether it's movement or drawing or painting or, singing. It's great.
I can tell you our coach has not made us, do any art yet. So we'll have to, dive into that sometime and see what that can bring us. And so when you work with a group, how often do you meet? Is this a daily thing, once a month, every week?
Yeah, it depends on each client, right? And really what they're looking for, what their goals are. Some clients I work with, I go like physically to their location quarterly. I've done a one and done before where it's just like a whole day and we're really excited. We just want to learn about people's strengths and boom, we're done. A whole week long's worth where there's like continuous conversations afterwards. And that's where a little bit of my one-on-one comes in, where it's like, okay, you're going to set individual goals now that we all kind of really know each other and what like the team's goals are. Let's focus on like your personal goals. So it just ranges. It ranges from client to client. Yeah.
And so, I've talked to a couple different coaches and they all kind of have their niche areas, and yours, you said a couple times is like strengths, finding the strengths. And I know you do a lot about the Strengths Finder, which is one of those quizzes that you could do. So can you tell us a bit more about that and kind of why this versus anything else?
Yeah. So I've done all of the personality assessments.
I love
And
them.
interestingly enough, that when I did this Strength Finders, which is owned by Gallup, it's a big data polling company. I did it with my family, and I'm one out of 4 kids, and we did a kind of a breakdown of the 6 of us, and it was so eye-opening that I was like, I love this, and I have to do this for other people. Like, this is amazing. So I started my business 7 years ago, and I did it with my family first, which is so strange because it's like, oh, normally you go the opposite way. But
Right.
and I got certified through Gallup, and I just took off, and I started working with, friends and business owners in the community, and then it really branched out to, across the US and across different countries. So yeah, Strength Finders, I'm a Strength Finder certified coach.
Okay.
And that helps because I have all of the tools and all of the information to really clearly give people, okay, so now I take my strengths, I get this, I'm this, now what?
Right.
What do I do with that?
Right. And so what are what's good the test kind of like? What are the results? I know some are like you're a blue or you're a 7 or you're so what are kind of, what does this one look like?
Yeah, so this one there's 34 strengths. There's kind of 4 quadrants that they each fall into. One is executing, one's influencing, relationship building, and strategic thinking. And 34 is a lot, right? That's a lot to memorize and remember. So you take the assessment. It's about 30-minute timed, really kind of your gut reaction, and you get your top 5. Mm-hmm. Now, I work with clients that love to see all 34, want to do like the full deep dive into it. It's like, that's great, but let's start with the top 5 because most people, it's hard to remember even your top 5, let alone someone else's, or 1 or 2. And so you get your top 5, and it does a really great job at breaking down like how each one of those comes up in the workplace. For example, one of mine is maximizer. And so it's like, okay, you love to take things from good to great. Well, how does that translate with what you do professionally? Mm-hmm. And I love how Gallup writes these paragraphs and kind of summarizes it for you. So you get this report. And then when you work with me, we go even further and deeper and like really get to like, what are you doing and what have you done and where do you want to go? And then using your strengths.
That's awesome. That sounds very interesting. And it's fun to know, I mean, from like a neutral perspective, what your strengths are. Because I could tell you, what I think maybe my strengths are, but to really see what they are and see what comes through. Right. But then also to kind of read and understand your coworkers as well. Mm-hmm. Because I could see, having something very complimentary could be really nice. You like to get it started and you like to perfect it. There you go. That's a team.
Exactly. And a lot of times the conflict comes in between that, right? Like, well, she's always starting something, or he always wants it to be perfect. And it's like, yes, but isn't that great? Like to have the opposites and to really understand, oh yeah, you already know that about the person, but highlighting it versus like, oh, that's so frustrating. They're not doing it the same. Why can't they do it the way that I want to do it? Right.
It's like they always turn it in and it's not quite done. It's like, right. Okay, you're the perfectionist. Like
exactly.
Yeah.
And the other person's the idea person, right? Like, oh, let's come up with this great idea. It's like, oh, that is a really like, okay, fascinating. Like I never thought of that before.
Right. Interesting. And so you bring this into companies so that way they can kind of collaborate together and really build their best team of strengths and goals and things like that.
Yep. And I have like an Excel spreadsheet that I put to really see the big summary of everyone and where they fall. And then we debrief and talk about like, okay, so these people have like super influencing strengths. Are they more your go-getters, your salespeople? Mm-hmm. What are they doing right now? And maybe how can we change, tasks or prioritize different things? Because I love when it's like, okay, you have a job, right? What to do, but maybe that doesn't really fit how you do things. And you could maybe focus on something different with the team. And it's not really changing your job, but switching tasks or delegating things, which can really make an effective team.
Definitely. I mean, even when Barb and I work together, sometimes I'm like, drives me nuts doing this. And for her, it's like, oh, that's no problem. For me, I'll be like, let's set up automations. And she's like, no way, and so it's really nice having those complementary things because those things that I'm excited about, I get to do that.
Exactly. And that's what I love too. Like one of my favorite stories was there's a boss and we were doing this a workshop and, one of the guys had, what was it? Intellection. So he needs like time to think about things. And she didn't. So she was very just like, okay, like come up with an idea right now. Here we go. And it drove him crazy. And she was like, wait a minute. So if I just gave you like 24 hours in advance and told you like, can you come up and then present it? Would that be helpful? And he was like, yes. It was crying. Like, please, like that would be amazing because then I have time to think about it. So
Right. That makes so much sense. Yeah, some people, oh, you get those good ideas in the shower. I just need 20 minutes.
Right. Like just let me have like my Zen moment to just think and then I can give you a great idea.
I love that. And so what kind of tips, would you have for someone who's, just listening to this and they're part of a team, some things that they could take with them, just to enhance either personally or as a team themselves?
Yeah, I would say it's so important to understand yourself first, right? So the more that you know about yourself and your blind spots, right? Because a lot of times your strengths are your weaknesses too. So you may not be aware, oh, I really like automation, or oh, I'm the perfectionist, right? Like, okay, maybe I can let that go, or just the awareness of it, as well as, being able to have vocabulary around it. So explaining to somebody, hey, this is how I operate. This is why I want it this way. This is why I want it done this way. And then having more of open conversations with the people that you're working with. And I think that can add to just a lot of great, partnerships and getting tasks done more effectively. But yeah, so take the Strength Finders assessment and then like learn about your strengths, because that can be helpful if you're interviewing. I know a lot of people that are like interviewing right now, like, well, what do I say? How great I am. And it's like, well, actually here are like very tangible things that you can say of like how you do things.
That's very smart. Yeah. Especially for an interview. Cause you're not just like, I'm a perfectionist. That's not going to always sound great. Someone might be like, yikes, but
I'm really picky.
But there's another way to say that,
Right.
Which this book could kind of help you with.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then while we're on this, I just want to throw in here that you are also an author. And so I'd love to kind of hear about your book because I know it's very interesting.
Yeah. So I have written, before I wrote my big book, I wrote 3 financial children's books. So I'm all focused on like yourself, like understanding your strengths and your wealth, because I feel like those tie in really nicely. And I come from a family business background where we learned about financial education within my family. So I wrote 3 financial children's books. And then I'm like, okay, I really need to write down like how to do this for parents. Parents are like, okay, these are great. We read them at story time. Now what? Right.
Right.
And so I had an amazing upbringing. My dad was very diligent. And I always laugh it's like, if he wasn't a business owner, he would have been a great military man.
Yeah, there you go.
Very, very particular. And so every Saturday we had a dad's class where we learned about the economy, financial lessons, stocks, all the broad stuff that you guys do, bringing these professionals together. And it's huge topics. And it was really great so I wrote a book to show how to do it with your own family. And everyone knows why it's important, but just like how to make it easy and tangible for your family and how to teach kids financial literacy early on before they even leave the house.
I love that. That's so fun. And I got to ask, if you had a sleepover Friday night, did your friend have to attend the lesson on Saturday?
Actually, yes. So we had some neighborhood friends. Oh, thank you. My dad's class. Yeah. We had some neighborhood friends that absolutely like memorized it with us, like because we would do it daily. Like we would read our out loud. So yes, they would.
That's amazing. I could just see that. And it's like, well, you're stuck, so you're doing the thing with us.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's so funny you asked it. Like, now that I think about it, like, yeah, they probably were like, this is really weird. But
I mean, I knew my friend like one time, like every Saturday was Japanese lessons. And I was like, I won't be there. You know what I mean? I'll be up and out.
That's funny.
But yeah, no, I know it's a great book. And so I just wanted to bring that up as well, just because it's so much great education just to kind of help your family with. We had another professional who, would sit down with his kids and say, okay, so we're going to go on this trip. We can spend this money on the flight, or we can understand that we all have to be in the car together. But once we're there, we can do the
Right.
extra day or whatever it is, So it's like,
Yeah.
do you want to sit through in the car ride? Or we
Mhm.
could go to the airport, and that's fun in its own way, but we have to
Mhm.
understand how it's like different allocated in the give and take.
Oh, I love that. That's brilliant, right? And I think a lot of it is just having that conversation with your kids, like
Yeah.
having them participate and be a part of it is that, and that's what my dad was really great at too. Is like we were included in everything. And the
Mhm.
conversation was like, yeah, do you want to spend the extra money and get there faster and it's more expensive? Or do we want to do a road trip and do that? Like I love that.
Yeah, it was so smart because, otherwise it's like, okay, we're flying to Tennessee. That's just okay. I didn't know why you picked that, but sure. Um,
Exactly.
yeah, so
Exactly.
your dad sounds like a collaborator. That would be like his strength.
Very much so. Yeah, he was very intentional of including us kids. And I think it's also because we came from a family business background and his grandfather included him in everything. So
Oh,
I
wow.
think he realized like when he was very young and he took over the family business like wait a minute. The most important thing is teaching my kids, this education because that's what I got from my grandfather. And I told them like you need to write my grandfather's class book.
Right, exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
And so I did actually have another question that came through when we were kind of prepping for this. And someone was asking, if you're looking for a business coach, should you kind of look for a different coach based on your business, on your category of industry? Get a different coach. It could be very different if you're in retail versus if you're just an online consulting firm or something like that.
Right. Right. I think the most important thing with everything is do you connect with your
Mm,
coach? Because if you don't connect with them, you're not going to listen to them. You're not going to take what they're giving you and apply it. You're just gonna be like, that's nice, right? And a lot of times I think business coaches, or executive coaches have to have these hard conversations with you. They really give you a mirror and it's like, here's what you're great at and here's also the weaknesses that come
yeah.
with that to help you improve as a person, as a leader, as a boss, as all these different things. So I think the most important thing is do you want to date this person? Because it's kind of like a dating, it's like
Yeah.
I fit with you or this feels right. So
That's a great piece of advice. I feel like we've covered a ton of content in such a short amount of time. Is there anything that we didn't touch on that you want to make sure is shared with our audience today?
I think, I love what I do. I love as people discover their strengths. And I think the biggest thing in terms of my book is when people read it, it can feel very daunting. Like we did a lot as a family and as a kid, it was a lot, but I never want people to feel overwhelmed. And
Mm.
it's like, take what works for you and your family from the book. And if there's one thing that you can do from the book, it's chapter 5 and doing the family bank. Do the family bank and the kids will learn all they need to know about financial education.
All righty, get that financial bank going.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you coming on, sharing your expertise about, your books and your coaching and the Strengths Finder. It's so interesting, and I can really see how it would make a huge change for a company. And so, yeah, if any teams are out there working together and are looking for some coaching, I'm sure you have a free 20-minute call just to make sure it is that right fit.
Yeah.
And so Paige's email has been going through the bottom, paige@millennialguru.com. And she's also one of our Purse Strings approved professionals. So you can check her out on our site, pursestrings.co. So thank you again, Paige, for coming on and sharing your expertise. And we'll talk to everyone again next week.
Thanks, Maggie. Appreciate it.
Of course. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.